So we're back and we're signed into Onshape, and I've clicked on the Onshape and it's showing me the documents that I've created. I'm going to create a new document for quiz 2. So create new document and quiz 2 and press on OK. Now that I'm in my new document for quiz 2, there it comes. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my units of measurement. By default, Onshape uses inches because it's made in America. The only reason why we would ever design anything in inches or feet or yards is if we're working for an American client, and even then I would design everything in millimeters and then convert it to yards or whatever it was later. The only other reason is if you're working on creating a part for a really old thing, like, you've got an old car that you're doing up, like an old Mini or something like that, and you need to create a part for it because those parts were all in the old imperial measurements. Let's go and create our new units workspace. So workspace units over here, and it's simply a matter of changing this to millimeters, and we are done. Tick. Now every sketch element we work in will be in millimeters. To set this up, we're going to create a sketch because most of our dimensioning is done inside sketches. So I'm going to create a new sketch, and I'm going to create it on the top plane, and I'm going to change my view to top so that I can see what I'm doing with my sketch. I'm going to use the rectangle or corner rectangle tool to draw a rectangle over on the right hand side. You'll notice it's now in millimeters. If yours is saying 1 point something, it's probably in inches. You'll need to remember to change that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work across here and use the line tool to draw a triangle pretty much in this shape here. Doesn't need to be exactly the same, but those two shapes there. Now that I've got that, I need to be able to dimension that or set the dimensions. You can access the dimension tool by clicking up here on the dimension button. Or you can access it by the shortcut key, which is what I normally do, by pressing D for dimension. Once you actually have clicked on or pressed the D key, you'll see that my cursor has changed to a cross. If I press escape, it'll change back to an arrow. The second I press the D key, it will change back to a cross. If I click on a line and let the mouse go, so it's just a click, and now I move my mouse anywhere without pressing a button, and then I click again, it will enable me to type in a dimension for that line. I'm going to make it 30. It's now 30 millimeters in size. If I do that again, you'll see that I've still got the dimension tool selected. I've still got the cross on there. I can do the same thing here and make that a 30 as well, which makes it a square. As well as clicking on lines, I can also click on the dots. The dots are called vertices. So this dot here, for example, is a vertice. If I click on that dot there and this dot here, I can create a dimension. There are two different dimensions I'm creating here. It is either the dimension between those two vertices in a straight line, or I can create the distance in the X direction away, or if I go down here, you can see that there is the distance in the Y direction away. I want to make this 20 millimeters from that point there. I can make this line up with this by pressing the D key, clicking on that vertex, and setting this to 0 millimeters. It's now in a perfect line. There are other ways of doing that, but that is an easy way to doing it while you're using dimensioning. If I use the dimension tool, you'll still see I've got it selected by pressing the D, and I click on two lines, 1 and then 2, it will give me the angle between those two lines or the angle outside of those two lines wherever I choose to actually click on it. I can now click on that and type in 60. The angle is now set to 60 degrees and will not change unless I double click on this and then change it to 65. That goes for any of these dimensions up here. I can double click on them and change them and they will update. Even more importantly, if I then finish that sketch, let's go back to my main view here and use the extrude button to extrude both of those shapes. Any changes I make back in the sketch by double clicking into the sketch, and for example, I want to make that 70, will update the shape that I've made there. So if I make a mistake with my measurements or I decide that I want to change my measurements, I can without any issue.